What's good, YouTube? It's KB with Just Do Boxing back with another video. And I wanted to touch on two fights that took place this past Saturday on separate cards. One taking place on ESPN, the Top Rank card. That was a super middleweight fight between the chosen one, Edgar Berlanga, and Steve Rose fighting out of Canada. Edgar Berlanga, he's a young kid, young gunner. He's 24 years old, I believe. 19-0, 16 KOs. All 16 of those KOs came in the first round. 6'1", 73-inch reach, orthodox. And Steve Rose, he's 21-2 now with 12 KOs. He's 5'10", with a 72-inch reach. So it's not too much of a height and reach difference there, and this past Saturday, man, I gotta say, Berlanga, he won a 10-round unanimous decision, but it was very competitive. It was more competitive than what I felt it would have been, and I think it was more competitive than what a lot of people felt it would have been. I think being that Berlanga, wasn't able to take him out, I believe he should have been able to win this fight by KO, if not, at least dominate Steve Rose and win in dominating fashion, and I don't think he did that. We know Rose only loss came to the hands of Triple G by a 4th round KO a couple years back. And since then, Steve Rose has been riding a little 2-fight win streak in which he had got a 4th round TKO in one fight and a 9th round KO in the other. So he's riding a little 2-fight win streak. But, up against Edgar Berlanga Saturday night, he fought back. He was tough. He was game. He was never knocked down, or he was never at a point in the fight where he looked like he was in any serious trouble. He was able to take Berlanga to rounds, make him work. Berlanga was cut in this fight as well. And he was able to take Berlanga the distance for the 3rd straight fight in a row. Berlanga stated after the fight that Rose was running. And, I thoroughly disagree. I don't know if people have been paying attention. I don't know if Berlanga and his team watched film or not, but if they did and they did their homework properly on Steve Rose, they would have known that he was going to use his movement in the full ring, to avoid his power. He would have known he was a boxer, and, he's not known for power, so he uses his legs to get out of trouble. You know what I'm saying? And I think Berlanga and his team should have been prepared for that. But he got in there and it looked like a tougher fight for Berlanga than it needed to be. He in my honest opinion, and it's just my honest opinion based off what I've been seeing, he struggles with movers, and he struggles to cut the ring. He's not very good at cutting off the ring. He's not. He's very strong and powerful, and he has a fight equalizer. He has fight-changing power. Those things are true, but he lacks the ability to set up his power. He's very limited to me in terms of how he sets up his power. He needs to learn to be more consistent. He needs to add more punches and punch variation to his arsenal, in my opinion. He needs more tools in that toolbox. What I'm saying? He needs to learn how to properly establish his jab and not shy away from it and use it when needed. He needs to learn how to switch up the speed on his punches, and he needs to understand that every punch doesn't need to be a knockout blow. Every punch doesn't need to be a home run. You know what I'm saying? It's things he really can work on, and for me in particular, these 3 fights that he's been taking the distance, and it's not because he's not getting the knockouts, but it's because it's the fact that he's not getting these knockouts, which means he's going more rounds, and more of his deficiencies, should I say, or things he's things he's good at is put to the forefront, and we able to see it more because he's going longer. He's going more rounds, and we're seeing him gassed. I seen him gassed the fight before this one. He looked gassed, midway through the fight. His fight against Damon Nicholson, the first fighter to take him the distance, he looked like he gassed in that fight. Nicholson was able to have some success. And the fight after that, he got dropped. He got knocked down. He had a rough fight there. And, he was gassed. He looked gassed also in that fight. And he to me, he looked like he had some potential issues with his stamina. You know, against Steve Rose, same thing. He slowed down enough in spots for Rose to be very competitive. You know, even the punch stats, you know, indicated that. You know, I believe Berlanga landed 123 punches to Steve Rose 120. So that's how close the fight was. You know, the scorecards was 97-93 twice and 96-94. You know, so that just goes to show you how close this fight was. And I honestly think, you know, Berlanga needs to get right back in the gym. He didn't take a ton of punishment or anything like that. You know, he definitely won the fight. But to me, it was closer than it needed to be. And I think if he continues to not improve in these areas, things like cutting off the ring and establishing his jab and, you know, being intelligent about how he uses his power and learning how to set it up. You know, if he doesn't improve in these areas, man, he's going to find himself in trouble, you know, as he continues to, you know, go up in competition and climb the ladder at 168 pounds. He's going to need these skills and these things he's going to need to work on. And some things fundamentally he need to work on as well. His conditioning, you know, of course he punches like a mule, but, you know, at the end of the day, he should be in better shape. We shouldn't see him gassing by the 5th, 6th, 7th round, but he's looking like, you know, he went 12 already, so that can't be a good thing. And luckily, he was in there with a fighter, you know, that's 37 years old. You know, Steve Rose is up there in age, you know. He's not the hardest puncher. He only has, you know, 12 KOs and 21 wins, so he's definitely not known for power by far. But, you know, like I said, this fight was more competitive than it needed to be. Edgar Berlanga definitely got some things he need to work on seriously in the gym if he think he's going to contend for a title, because if he don't, I can see him losing. And I like the kid. He's talented. He has a lot of promise. He just needs to get in the gym and work on the right things and apply those things come fight night. You know what I mean? I think he'll get better results. You know, this is the 3rd straight fight where he was, you know, unable to get a knockout. And like I said, you know, Triple G was able to cut the ring on Steve Rose and get him out of there in 4 rounds. So, you know, I believe Berlanga definitely has the power to get him out of there. If he was able to cut the ring off better and set up his power better, like a Gennady Golovkin, I believe he would have gotten the knockout. But, you know, to Steve Rose's credit, he fought hard, he was tough, you know, he made it the distance. And, you know, it was a good showing for him, you know. So, but, you know, decent win for Berlanga. I don't think he was impressive in his fight. I think, like I said, he got a lot to work on. And, you know, a lot of people are going to criticize his performance, but we'll wait to see his next fight to see if he finally gets this and he learned how to cut the ring. And, you know, if he works on his stamina issues that it appeared his 3rd straight fight where I visibly seen him pretty much gas. So we're going to see if he works on those things, as if not, he could find himself in trouble. And the other fight, excuse me, the other fight I wanted to touch on that took place on the DAZN card was, you know, Blair Cobbs versus Alexis Rocha. And, you know, Blair Cobbs has been doing a lot of talking, so he had all eyes was on him fight night. You know, all the talking he's did has worked out to a certain degree, but I believe, you know, he got the attention he wanted with all that talking he was doing, and he fumbled. He dropped the ball on this one. You know, he was knocked out in the 9th round viciously by Alexis Rocha. You know, Blair Cobbs was coming into the fight 15-0-1. He was undefeated with 10 KOs, 32 years old. He was a southpaw, fighting out of Vegas, 5'11", you know. And before this fight, he was in the ring with Brad Solomon. And, you know, definitely against Alexis Rocha, it was going to be a much tougher fight than Brad Solomon. And even though he got Solomon out of there in 5, he still was tested more than he should have been for a guy where you know, Brad Solomon's at 38 years old, you know, just not the best toward the end of his career. But, you know, nonetheless, he got the job done. But I don't think that fight prepared him for a fight with Alexis Rocha. And that's one thing that seemed like, you know, was evident. It seemed like he was unprepared. You know what I mean? He had somebody standing up to him and was dishing out just as good as they was taking, if not more. You know, the fight was competitive. It wasn't just a blowout. You know, Blair Cobbs definitely landed his share of shots. He competed throughout. But I just believe ultimately, Rocha wanted it more. He was more prepared. He was more focused. Blair Cobb was all over the place. He was talking about Crawford, calling out Crawford, saying Crawford would lose if he signed a contract with him. He spoke very negatively about Errol Spence, and Errol Spence wasted no time responding and getting right back at him, alluding to the fact, calling him a bum. He said he got his ass put in the dirt. You know what I'm saying? Called him red off the 5 heartbeats. He definitely had some jokes and poked some fun. Terrence Crawford responded as well. He said all of that talking the kid was doing or something like that. Now he's sitting there looking stupid. Showtime Sean Porter responded, and several other boxers. They were very critical of Blair's performance, and rightfully so, because of all the chirping that he's been doing and the calling people out and the unrealistic call outs that were seeming like clout chasing. You either were speaking on, Jerron Boots Ennis and speaking negatively on him, and it's like you was talking so much about everybody else, you weren't talking about your fight. Then you got in there fight night and pretty much you fumbled. You got the attention you was looking for. I knew Rocha was going to be a tough test. He wasn't coming to play. As I said, he's 19-1 now with 13 KOs after stopping Blair in the 9th. But his only loss was a competitive loss to, the undefeated Speedy Rashidi Ellis. So I know the way he fought Ellis, and he gave Ellis his toughest fight. Blair is just not on the level of a Rashidi Ellis, in my opinion. So I knew he was going to get Blair all he could handle. Now, to be honest, I did think Blair would be able to pull off a decision victory against this guy. But, Rocha definitely made me a fan that night. He showed me, even more than what I already thought. I already knew he was tough. He showed me he really could fight, and he could take a shot and keep going. He shined in the moment under them lights where it mattered most. He let his fighting do most of the talking. Whereas Blair Cobb was, very animated and very confident, and calling himself great, and calling all these different fighters out and things like that. And it seemed like he just lacked the actual focus that he should have had on his fight, and it kind of showed. Even though he was competitive, like I said. But Rocha just wanted it more, and, he was able to stop him in the 9th. And, Blair Cobb, I think he might have hit the referee with more body shots than he hit Rocha with. Definitely, when he was getting stopped, he threw like 2 or 3 more body shots and all hit the ref while the ref was jumping in the way, stopping the fight. I thought that was a little funny. But nonetheless, this was the battle of the Southpaws. Like I said, Rocha was well prepared. He was ready. I think he was locked in. He took this fight very serious. Like I said, Blair Cobbs was everywhere doing interviews, speaking about everything but this fight. And even when he did speak about the fight, he spent more time talking about everything else but his fight and the fighter he was facing. So I always think, when you focusing on everything but the task at hand, you end up getting a negative result. And that's exactly, I believe, what Tony Harrison had tweeted out as well. That's the prime example why you focus on your task and what's in front of you, not everything else. And I think he shot himself in the foot. I think it's back to the drawing board for him. I don't know exactly where he goes from here. That was a tough loss. It's not saying he can't rebound, but he doesn't have time on his side. He only has 15 wins. Now the 1 loss with 1 draw. So he has a total of 17 fights, and he's going on 33 years old. So whatever he decides to do, he definitely got to, do it in an urgent manner as quickly as possible, because he's getting old. And, with this being a setback, this is not something he could have afforded. I'm not saying his career is done or anything like that, but he's going to have to pick himself back up and rebound. He's going to have to show not only himself, but he's going to have to show these fans that he's more than just a trash talker or a sideshow. A lot of people don't take him serious. They feel like he over promoting himself and he's clout chasing. Me, myself, kind of agree, in spots and in situations, some of these call outs and some of the things you were, spitting out your mouth, you should have kept to yourself. You should have focused more on your fight. And I think you would have got a better result. But you came in there, gave it 9 good rounds. You know, you did hit Rocha with some shots. You made him more. But ultimately, I think Rocha wanted it more, and he was more prepared and focused, and it showed. And it was a great fight. You know, great stoppage win for the young 24-year-old. And I think the future is bright for him. I think he's gonna get another opportunity, as he should, and he's just one step closer to a title. You know, so salute to both Blair Cobbs and Alexis Rocha. You know, they both did their thing. They put on a show for the fans, but like I said, it was Rocha winning by 9-round TKO. So that's my thoughts on these two fights, man. I just wanted to give y'all my take. As always, y'all get in that comment section. You let me know what y'all think. Let me know if I gave Blair to Flair Cobbs and, you know, Alexis Rocha at Just Do, because that's what I like to do over here at Just Do Boxing. To the next one, I'm out. Peace.